Well, would you look at this? Another Top of the Pops reaction, just a matter of days after the last one. This is really a bonus reaction slash commentary from me. What with everything that's going on, I thought I'm going to be doing some extra of these, just so that people have got a bit extra to watch while they may be stuck indoors, etc. Anyway, this episode is from the 31st Preferred Miming Act. New Order, I don't think they'd ever appeared on Top of the Pops before. It'd do well over here in the UK. It's Blue Monday, mostly for Top of the Pops, shortened version. A little bit awkward, sort of, that ending, but yeah, it's alright.
New Order, that's Blue Monday. Here's another band with style now. It's Tracey, Paul and Mick. So collectively they're called the Style Council, and this is Speak Like a Child.
Alright, Style Council now, Speak Like a Child. So, Paul Weller, Mick Talbot and Tracey somebody, I'm not sure her surname, I'll put it on screen if I can find it out. But this was Paul Weller's main project, or maybe his only project, after the Jam split up in the early 80s. So, this being 1983, this may have been one of the Style Council's earlier hits, earlier singles. This is something I've not heard in quite a few years. I think this was one of their bigger selling singles. I don't think the Style Council really ever sort of smashed through as a band really as big as the Jam. I mean, the Jam, for a, you know, quite an indie band really, the Jam, they had some big hits, you know. I think they were one of the few acts that was able to get straight in at #1 in the kind of late 70s, early 80s. Most other hits, even the really massive ones, they'd sort of be a new entry at 20-something or whatever, and then it'd take them 3 or 4 weeks to climb up to #1. Whereas the Jam, they had just such a devoted fan base, they could go straight in at #1 with it. At least one of their singles towards the end. I'm thinking maybe Beat Surrender, but I'll check on that. Possibly more. The charts were exciting back then, the singles charts. I suppose the album charts to a slightly lesser degree. What do I think of this? Speak Like a Child. It's listenable. It's not something that I would choose to purchase or choose to listen to or have in my collection, but it's alright. I prefer the Jam. I think the Jam are a great band. They're a band I would probably like to get more into, really. Style Council, much more soul based and sort of a little bit funky, as in funk music, rather than being funky white boys. Paul Weller there looking quite young. And Style Council, they lasted after this for about another, 6 years or so. 6 or 7 years maybe, sort of a bit into the early 90s. And then Paul Weller, of course, had a solo career that continues to this day. Okay, Mary Wilson, Cry Me a River. I remember Mary Wilson. Not sure exactly what I remember her from, but I remember the big beehive hairdo. This is got to be a cover version, surely. I'm trying to think who would have done the original. Probably one of those old sort of early 20th century show tune type things where a lot of people covered it, and she just happens to be the latest, sort of in the early 80s. There's going to be some more annotations and notes to put on screen here as I do the research afterwards. Good job I've got enough time on my hands, which is one of the reasons why I'm doing an extra episode this month of this, and there is other extra episodes in this reaction series as well that I've already got in the can, and then ones that I've done quite a while ago, a couple of months ago. There's some that I filmed, and they'll still be along as scheduled. It's just I'm trying to insert some extras in, just as we live in these really bizarre times where a lot of us are sort of at home way more than we would normally be. And if you do appreciate sort of me being able to do this a little more, and it's no hardship for me because I love Top of the Pops, I love reacting to these and listening to old music and rediscovering a lot of it. But if you do like this sort of thing, then drop me a comment and let me know. And if you've got any requests, of course, for other programmes to react to or other eras in Top of the Pops history, I tend to try and do them and then upload them on the anniversary date. But if there's a particular date that you want, and even if it's a date that's just gone or is quite a while from the future, but you really want to see a reaction to it, then let me know and I'll do my best. I can't promise, because it depends on availability of episodes for me and quality of them as well. I mean, this is kind of dreary, isn't it? I'm not keen. So I suppose if I was sort of at a wine bar or something, or at someone's house for a dinner party, and this was on quietly in the background, it wouldn't offend me, but very 80s sax there. Mary Wilson just sort of sat there looking bored during the instrumental break, the sax break. What a great hairstyle she's got, though. That's the most interesting thing about this. This is kind of dull and boring, really, but her beehive is sort of the one bright spot in this rather wet patch of a performance here. Probably singing live, I would have thought. Singing live like New Order did, although this probably got better reviews at the time than Blue Monday did. I still think that Blue Monday performance wasn't as bad as what people made. Even a lot of big New Order fans like me, they've said, oh no, they shouldn't have played Blue Monday live, it just didn't sound right on Top of the Pops. But they did, and it went down in history, rightly or wrongly. But anyway, that was back then. This is Mary Wilson, and we've seen New Order and the Style Council since then. And she's at number 30, apparently. State of him with the weird S&M gear on, standing next to Skinner. Jeez. Oh, it's U2, of course. Did you expect U2 to be on this episode? I know there was a period, I think late 80s and early 90s, maybe even going into mid-90s, where U2, I mean, they'd have a lot of big hits, a few number ones, and a lot of top 10 hit singles, but because they were touring so often and sort of being really focused on America, you just wouldn't get them on Top of the Pops. But they weren't a massive band. They were getting fairly big at this point. I think U2 had been formed in Dublin, obviously, in the late 70s, and this sort of early 80s period, they were getting more recognised. Definitely in Britain, obviously, probably Europe, and I think the American audience really caught on maybe around the time of the album that came before the Joshua Tree. I mean, the Joshua Tree was just their sort of worldwide breakthrough, but I'm not sure what album this is off. In fact, I didn't even pay attention to what the name of the track was. Probably should talk over it quite a bit, because I've got a feeling U2 would be, or U2's record label, publisher, etc. would be rather gung-ho for taking any copyrighted material of U2's away from a deserving YouTube audience. So hopefully this is a good enough compromise, me talking all over it. But I do have to edit a lot of stuff out anyway, even stuff that I think I've talked over quite a lot. I'll get an email from Google, from YouTube, saying your video has been blocked because of such a track. And it's like, come on, I'm not pirating here, for God's sake, you know. I'm reacting. You know, if people want to listen to music and for free, you know, they're not going to come to my bloody channel and listen to me flipping talking and, you know, stuttering, stammering, and saying, you know, as I am wont to do. And I apologise for that. It's one of these tick things that I can't help. You know, people have got... I'm doing it again. People have got Spotify and Apple Music, and they can stream this sort of stuff. Not for free, but for very cheap. Or Spotify, you can get that for free if you don't mind putting up with a few ads, can't you? I'm not into streaming, so I'm not an expert. But my daughters use Spotify, the free account. They've not asked for the paid one yet, so I'm getting away with it so far. I'm striking a blow for all parents out there. So there was U2.
U2 and 2 hearts beat as 1. Well, Dickie, it's all going very well. I'm very happy with the way the show's going.
Knock it on the head, Steve.
It's my best hat. All right, what should we do now?
Let's have a look
Oh,
at the
great.
charts,
First
shall
look at the chart. Oh, we're only doing a top 30.
Straight in at number
So
30, it's Crime
we
Related.
didn't have a top 40 in Top of the Pops in this era.
Communication, that's number 29. At 28, Baby Come to Me, Patty Austin and James Ingram. Kenny Everett and Snow Rap, that's a new entry at 27.
Lovely.
At 26, Joy, Band AKA. Blancmange and Waves, that's number 25. And straight in at 24, 2 hearts beat as 1.
That was alright, that.
Modern Romance, High Life, that's number 23. Visions in Blue at number 22 for Ultravox. At 21, Run for Your Life, Bucks Fizz.
And at this week's number 20, Kajagoogoo and Who to Be Are.
Kajagoogoo and what was that? Who to be are? I must have misheard him say that. That just doesn't sound right at all. The only Kajagoogoo track I remember is Too Shy. They sound very similar to it. God, State of Limal's pinky, purpley, latex trousers. I mean, he always had a stupid hairstyle, that kind of spiky two-tone mullet, and now he's got bloody awful trousers to boot. Well done, Limal. Very 1983 there, mate. What do I think of this? Not much, if I'm perfectly honest. It sounds very overproduced, doesn't it? It's like a band, like a maybe sort of standard new wave synth band have gone into a studio and their producer has just added just like a really thick layer of sort of, I don't know how to describe it, almost aural audio sludge over it. Just like, oh, I know what will improve this. Just kind of, just really sort of taking any sort of heart and soul out of this track and any kind of rough edges to it, and we'll just smooth it all over and turn it into this homogeneous pop song that just doesn't really sound any different from anything else that they may have done that we've had a hand in producing. That's what I think, anyway. You may disagree with me, but for me, this is overproduced and not very nice at all, to be honest. This was at number 20. I don't know how higher it got. Being that I would only been 2 years old when this episode was first on, I obviously wasn't following the charts at this point, being only a toddler. But interesting time for music. Obviously, we've got the New Romantics coming in around this time. Well, probably a couple of years before this, really. Don't like it. Just, no, that were crap. I'm not going to beat around the bush. That was a pile of shit.
Kajagoogoo in the week that Too Shy hits number 1 in the German charts. That's their new
Congratulations.
British Who to Be Are. Let's talk about the British charts now as we take a look at the next slab of the top 30.
So, at this week's number 19, Garden Party Mezzo Forte. Tracey Ullman, Breakaway, that's a new entry at 18. 17, Blue Monday,
Yeah.
New Order. At this week's number 16, Orchard Road, Leo Sayer. Nick Hayward, Whistle Down the Wind, that's at this week's number 15. 14, You Can't Hide, David Joseph. A new chart entry at number 13 this week, Fields of Fire.
Oh, excellent song, Fields of Fire. I hope that's played. I love that.
And Michael Jackson, Billie Jean at this week's number 11. Now, she is the funniest lady on television. apart from Boy George. She is Tracey Ullman, and she sings Breakaway!
Why do people like Steve Wright is always, and I've never found anything about him entertaining or amusing in the slightest. Anyway, this is Tracey Ullman, Breakaway. Of course, Tracey Ullman, arguably more famous as a comedian and actress, or comic actress. She was in the first series of kind of a female equivalent to the Young Ones that was on ITV in the 80s. Girls on Top, alongside Jennifer Saunders, Dawn French, and Ruby Wax. She went to America. She made it quite big in America in between the first and second series of that, though. So she wasn't in series 2. I've got that set, Girls on Top, the DVDs. I bought it when it was going really cheap in a sale, and yeah, bits of it are kind of okay, but no, it wasn't that good ultimately. I feel like I'm being really negative on things today. I'm trying to keep the mood positive and light, and I'm just struggling, I'm afraid. One positive thing to say is Tracey Ullman's got nice legs. Yes, it's another episode of Top of the Pops where I'm commenting on a female performer's legs. I'm a legs man. Sue me. To me, this sounds like it should be a cover version, but I'm not sure if it is or not. So yeah, Tracey Ullman sort of having a dual career as a comedian and pop star at this point. Of course, The Simpsons started life on the American Tracey Ullman show as little inserts in the late 80s.
Yes, I tell you what, we'll move on immediately to the top 10 rundown.
So this week's number 10 is Forest and Rock the Boat.
Nana Hey Hey Kiss Him Goodbye.
Pretty good.
Panorama at number 9.
Orange Juice are there at this week's number.
Oh, good song that.
And at number 7, Don't Talk to Me About Love, Altered Images.
At 6, Joe Boxers and Boxer Beat.
Leroy Screwballs played that on a recent episode of his Screwball Spins.
Speak Like a Child, the Style Council, that's this week's number 4.
And there's a Total Eclipse of the Heart at number 3 with Bonnie Tyler.
And David Bowie, Let's Dance at this
Oh, we
week's
got a new number
2.
1 then.
And number 1.
Is there something I should know, Steve?
I know what you're trying to say.
Duran Duran, here they are. They're still there at number 1, that's Duran Duran.
So no Duran Duran, that was edited out for copyright reasons.
Mate, what's it like being an overnight sensation?
Fair enough, I can't say I miss it. If you want to hear Duran Duran, is there something I should know? It will be easy to do on YouTube or elsewhere.
Live, Kenny.
Oh my God!
And there's Kenny Everett.
It's him! It's him! It's him!
Are you on?
Am I on after this?
After this!
This
Good
could
night.
save the BBC.
See you next week, bye.
Bye!
So, this is weird. It's not rap, I think, by Kenny Everett. Quite appropriate for me, seeing as how I've got the sniffles today. Don't worry, it's nothing serious. It's just happens a lot this time of year. It's sort of like I have a cold that's sort of on and off. So Kenny Everett's in the studio, and the plane's not rap, but he isn't performing to it. We've just seen the dancers. What a strange episode. But Top of the Pops was pretty strange around this point, for me anyway. Probably the norm for everyone else in these days. Don't reckon much of this. Anyway, the credits are on, so that is my cue to thank all of you for watching, all of my subscribers for subscribing, all my patrons for patronising, and to ask you to join me again for my next Top of the Pops reaction. Cheers, everyone. See ya!